Introverts, how did you meet your girlfriend? Story 1. She came over to me in a coffee shop while she was on vacation in my country to ask how to tip. We had a 2-hour conversation, and then an amazing 5-hour lunch 2 days later. She complained about her hostel and I offered her my spare bedroom. She accepted. Nothing happened, although it seems crystal clear in retrospect that we were falling for each other. Duh. I didn't want to be douchey and make her feel uncomfortable under my roof, so putting the moves on her was not something I seriously considered. 2 nights later, I had to be gone for most of the night, on a work assignment, and I asked if she would please watch and walk my dog in my absence. I came home at 5 a.m. and was greeted by my suddenly very soft, very fluffy dog. She had somehow understood. "Will you please wash my dog?" and apparently didn't find that a strange request at all. The next evening, after we'd been talking over a bottle of wine for hours, it seemed she'd had enough of my apparent indecisiveness, took the wine glass out of my hand, put it down, and leaned in for a kiss. That was 26 years ago. We've been married 23 years. Story 2. On the Greyhound. During my time in the Army, I was stationed at Fort Eustis, VA. On my way home, Denver, Colorado, at the time, for Christmas I saw her sitting across from and slightly behind me. Honestly, I didn't pay much attention to her at first, but my buddy, seated next to her, did. After getting shot down repeatedly for a day and a half, he finally got off the bus. Shortly thereafter she came over and sat next to me and we started talking. After that we got split up, put on different buses, and I kicked myself for not getting her number. Then, when the bus stopped in St. Louis, there she was standing right there in the entrance, almost like she was waiting for me. If my bus had arrived 15 minutes later, I'd have never seen her again. Then I found out the bus to Denver was delayed due to snow, and wasn't going anywhere for at least 2 days. She hurried over to the ticket counter and had my ticket changed to Des Moines, Iowa, where she was going, so I wouldn't be trapped in St. Louis for 2 days. We spent the next 4 days getting to know each other, then I continued home. We had a long-distance relationship for about 6 months until I came home permanently, by which time she had moved to Denver and rented an apartment. We got married 3 years later and have been together 10 years total. Story 3. At a garage sale. Well, technically my mom's garage sale. My father was a hoarder, but not of old newspapers or glass bottles or garbage. He hoarded consumer goods. Tools, CDs, home improvement stuff, camping gear, hunting and fishing stuff. The man had piles and piles of it stuffed into his home, most of it pretty high quality, all bought on clearance. The old man was a sucker for a deal, even if he didn't have a use for it. After he passed away, it fell to us to figure out what to do with a stock of overstocked goods large enough to open a store. So we sold it at rock-bottom prices in the front yard, as is tradition. It was a miserably hot summer's day. My mom requested that I come over and help, because the house was on a well-trafficked street, and the sheer volume of stuff meant there would be tons of people. She was right, there'd been a zillion people the day before, and though we'd sold a lot of stuff, there was much more yet to go. And today, I'd put an ad up on Craigslist, it was even busier. It was a long day of haggling with strangers, but at the end of the day, we'd sold 90% of the load, and we were just getting ready to close up and celebrate our success with pizza. Then this car pulls up, and out hops this gorgeous girl. She starts poking around in the CDs first, finds a couple she loves, then waves me over and starts asking about some she's unfamiliar with. Think she thought that since she'd found a few things she liked, the stuff she hadn't heard might be in the same vein, not knowing it was purchased indiscriminately from bargain bins all over town. I answer as best I can I hadn't heard most of them, but I was able to steer her to a couple she might enjoy. We kept chatting, and I sort of showed her around in between helping other people who kept showing up. There was definitely an instant attraction, and some really great conversation. She had to get going, so I made her a sweetheart deal on the stuff and helped her to her car. She got in, drove away, and then I realized I hadn't gotten her number. My brother and my neighbor had a fucking field day at my stupidity. But she told me where she worked, at a restaurant down the road, and she told me the days she was usually scheduled. So I did something very unusual for me, and pursued it. Friday afternoons, I'd drive over from my office and ask to sit in her section. The food was terrible, but she'd stop and chat as long as it wasn't busy, and I caught her mirroring a few times. So on my third visit, I told her I'd love to see more of her and asked for her number. 10 years, a marriage, and a child, and we're still head over heels for each other. So I guess I owe my dad for the posthumous hookup. Story 4. The thing with introverts is, it's difficult to keep a conversation going, until, that is, you find this one subject they are most passionate about. It's not long ago I shared how I met my husband. He's the introvert, he kept coming into the bar I worked, and I kept asking him questions trying to get a conversation going. But Elle kept hitting a wall. It didn't stop me from trying though. It confuses me to think back on, because I was also very annoyed with him. But anyway. After asking about so many things, I finally on day 4, asked him about books, and the boy never shut his mouth thereafter. So to all introverts out there, asking questions is difficult, but you're all passionate about something, whatever it is. Lead the conversation towards that one subject that you feel confident talking about. Then all the rest will come more easily. I can't believe my husband didn't ask. So do you read any books? Who's your favorite author? When he's so passionate about them. For 4 days all we did was. Story 5. Probably will be buried, but hey, I think it's cute. We're both introverts, and as a result, it took a little while for us to actually become romantically involved a little while being 7 years. She and I met when we were both 11, when we were put together to compete in a music competition as a duet. We're both cellists. I had a little 11-year-old crush on her straight away, and she had the same thing for me. Neither of us ever told the other about our feelings for years, instead talking to our friends about it, and then getting into other relationships and forgetting about each other for a while. Eventually, after I broke up with my girlfriend of 3 years, I asked my now-so if she wanted to catch up and play some music together. We saw each other for a few weeks in a row, and then, after 7 years of on and off feelings for each other, we became a thing, and I am happier than I've ever been. Story 6. I met her at a gaming club. I was playing D&D, she was hanging out with the MTG crowd. She caught my eye from afar, but, being an introvert, I never went up to her. All my social energy was being spent on the D&D. I had none left to leave my close friend group and greet someone new. If there's one hobby you can do while being solitary, it's writing, and that eventually led me to NaNoWriMo. I got to talking with some of the people on the local forums, and one of them turned out to be her. She invited me to a write-in with a bunch of locals. I didn't really want to go out, but now this girl I liked was directly inviting me out. I couldn't say no. We became nano buddies for the next couple of years, and started hanging out outside of that. We spent many nights during her senior year of college hanging out at her apartment watching various shows and writing together. Then she graduated and moved away, and we slowly lost contact. Flash forward 4 years. I'm still single, a semi-regular poster on r/foreveralone, and resigned to living single for the rest of my life. She pops up on Facebook again. We'd been Facebook friends since before she moved away, but she rarely used the site. Now we're chatting, and soon the chatting moves to Skype. She's thinking about moving back into town and wants to know if I'd go around looking at apartments with her. She does the several-hour drive and we look at a few places, hang out for a while, then she goes home. A few weeks later she tells me about this cool nearby theme park. She does the several-hour drive, we hang out for a while, then she goes home. This goes on for a month or two and I'm just the densest idiot that ever deserved to be an evolutionary dead end because I'm not realizing people don't just drive for hours to spend a little time with a friend. Finally, in the most adorable Skype message I've ever gotten, she asks me if the next time she comes down it could, maybe, possibly, if I wanted to, be a date. I told her I'm someone who enjoys happiness, so of course yes. That was 2 years ago. We're getting married in July. And we still laugh at how dense I was. Story 7. We met in a science fiction class at college. And we absolutely hated each other. She thought I was an idiot, and I thought she was a know-it-all bitch. We argued. We squabbled. We one-upped. We are both super nerds, so it was a seemingly endless battle of esoteric knowledge about science fiction literature. At some point we got to arguing about Atlas Shrugged. I made several trenchant remarks about its lack of literary value, and she aggressively defended it. One thing led to another, and before I knew it we were watching The Empire Strikes Back and dating. We're engaged now. She still thinks I'm an idiot. I still think she's a bitch. But we don't hate each other anymore. Story 8. He was in the corner, drinking a bottle of water. I noticed him immediately, and I noticed him noticing me for the better part of an hour. I finally just walked up to him after I figured he was too shy to approach me. We chatted for about 2 hours and then left. Later in school, we exchanged our AOL screen names, and that after weeks of random chat sessions, he finally worked up the courage to ask if I wanted to see a movie, Harry Potter Natch. During the date, he didn't say anything, but I noticed him very fidgety, so I decided to hold his hand. After the movie, we were sitting in his car in silence, and he was fidgety again, so I grabbed his face and kissed his cheek. He turned completely red but was grinning ear to ear. In person, he had trouble stringing sentences together, but online we would chat for hours. He had to express his love via email, and cuddling without saying a word. We first met over 14 years ago. Bought a house together and getting married in October. Going to Disney and Universal for our honeymoon/celebrate Halloween. It's pretty much amazing. As we get older, he's gotten much more vocal, but I still do most of the talking and socializing. We do a squeeze when holding hands to mean, love you, if we don't want to talk. Story 9. After months of spending less than 20 minutes sober, drove myself to a hospital for detox. Finally got up to the unit at about 1 a.m. where I proceeded to be given a bunch of drugs to help me sleep and reduce the chances of a seizure. Woke up the next day for breakfast in my scrubs, highly confused, and there she was. She had been in detox a full day before me, and this one allowed you to bring your own clothes and shit, so she was dressed in her sweats. For some odd-ass reason she saw me, barely aware, unshowered for 2-3 months, and thought he looks hot. Proceeded to spend the next 7 days in a locked unit, only talking. After which we both went to our separate treatments. Detox was combined detox and counseling that specialized in getting people into treatment directly from the hospital. Only contact we had from then on was about 20 minutes total of phone time, but we wrote letters to each other every day. It's been almost 9 months now, and we had very dark parts of our relationship where we both relapsed, but now we are both over 3 months sober. Focus on our individual recovery first. I couldn't be happier. I finally found my best friend who loves me for who I am, and has helped me grow in so many areas. I know nobody is going to really read this, but I want someone to see it, so thank you to whoever does. Story 10. I'm definitely a hardcore introvert, at least if you believe Myers-Briggs tests. But I'm not shy, don't have anxiety or anything like that. Still, I always had confidence issues, and could never manage a cold open with a girl. Even with friends of friends that I liked, I found creative ways to fuck things up and make them horrifically awkward. Met my wife on eHarmony. Dated for 4 years, married for almost 5 now, just had our first kid. After talking online, we met at a bar, and just hit it off. Funny thing is, she's way different than me. Much more extroverted. I've rubbed off on her a little, and she's rubbed off on me a little. For me, my problem was always that I couldn't tell if a girl was interested, and I could never tell when I was crossing the line from flirting to being creepy. And I was never looking for anything casual. I wanted a relationship. By meeting a girl online, I knew she was interested, and looking for the same thing as me. So I didn't get all in my own head about it, and I was free to just be myself. Did fine after that.